Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we'll be completing in today's video. This fun gallery wall drawing where we create these awesome gold frames and then we draw some pictures inside them with a fun kind of paint looking brush, and then we'll finish it off with some shadows and some texture on the wall behind us. So if you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you are interested in, go ahead and subscribe. I also offer extra tutorials over on Patreon, so that's linked in the description below. We've been drawing lots of fun stuff over there lately. If you want to support me over there, I really appreciate it. It helps me, continue to make all these awesome tutorials. So check that out. It's linked in the description below. And then before you get started on today's video, the only thing that you'll need is the color palette. I have that linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just download the file to your iPad, double tap it or click on it and click open in Procreate, and it will automatically pop the color palette into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen and in the description below so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we'll get started. Okay, this is the color palette that we'll be working with today, so let's just go ahead and get started. We're going to save our background for last so that we can sketch everything on top first and see it all very well since our background's kind of darker. So we're going to go straight into just sketching out where our frames are going to be. So I'm just going to grab the first color in the first row of the color palette. We're going to be on layer 1, and we are going to grab just a sketching pencil. The 6B pencil under the sketching category is fine. We'll set that to 30%. And I'm just going to sketch a little bit here. So I'm going to do an oval, a kind of shorter rectangle, and then a nice long rectangle across the bottom. So in this top left corner, I'm just going to kind of sketch like an oval shape. And then on the right side, maybe a little bit lower, I'll start. And we'll sketch kind of like a longer kind of rectangle. Something like that. And then across the bottom, like a skinny long rectangle. Maybe that goes a little further on the left side than on the right side. Something kind of like this. Okay. That looks great. Adjust them if you need to. I might make my bottom one a little bit bigger and these two a little bit smaller. So I'm going to grab my selection tool on freehand, color fills turned off. I'm going to select around these two with my arrow tool on uniform, downsize them just a little bit, kind of keeping them roughly where they are. Then I'll select around this guy, make it a little bit bigger, move it up a little bit maybe. Something kind of like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just kind of trying to get a good kind of starting point for things. So maybe something like this is good. I might move this over just a teeny bit to the right. Something like that. Okay, awesome. Just a brief little sketch. Okay, then on our layer menu, let's add a new layer and we'll start our first frame here. We are going to do the oval one first. We are going to turn on Drawing Assist in a moment to help us with symmetry, but we're going to draw the oval shape first because these other two will use the symmetry feature to draw them, but the oval we kind of can't use symmetry. We just need to draw a shape and center it and stuff. So let's go ahead and turn symmetry on. So under the gear icon under Canvas, click to turn on the drawing guide, click Edit Drawing Guide, set it to Symmetry, and then under Options here, set it to Quadrant, and then go ahead and click Done. This will also kind of help you see roughly where mine are. So my oval here is nicely to the left of my symmetry line, and then it dips a little bit below my horizontal line. And then on the right side here, same thing, kind of centered on this right side, but then it dips below my middle horizontal line, and then my other one here is down at the bottom. Okay, on our new layer, Drawing Assist turned on automatically. Let's turn it off for a second. So click on it and turn off Drawing Assist, and then grab our first frame color, the first one on the second row. Grab the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, set to 100% for our size, 100 for our opacity as well. And we're just going to draw our oval shape in the center here. We did want our lines turned on to help us like make it nice and vertical, but then we'll use symmetry when we go to draw like the details. But let's go ahead and just draw a nice good oval shape. So just a good oval shape kind of in the center here. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. If you touch your finger on the screen, it's probably going to turn into a circle because we don't have it super skinny. So that's why we needed the symmetry lines on. So just set a good size there. Click Edit Ellipse. And we don't have to like line it up with this one perfectly, you know, it doesn't have to be the same size, but if you want to line it up with your sketch, you kind of can. But just get a rough, similar size. Bring it back over to the middle here, and we just want to line up our blue dots, our top and bottom ones on our symmetry line. The right and left one, you know, will line up automatically when these do, but if we just line them both up on the symmetry line like so, you can adjust the shape of it if you need to. This will get us a nice, perfectly vertical oval. Okay, and we don't need to like center it perfectly right now. We'll center it in a moment with the help of snapping. So, right there is good. Go back to our layer menu. Make a duplicate of this oval, so slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab it with your arrow tool, switch it to freeform. Make sure snapping is turned on in the bottom left. I'm just going to drag it in a little bit and then recenter it as I go. So center it on my center lines there. So like we have two blue lines that line us up. And then I just want the gap to be even all the way around. So something kind of like this, nothing too thick yet. And we still have like an inner piece to draw. So maybe just about like this is good. Then on our layer menu, let's go ahead and snap those two layers together onto one layer so that we can fill in the middle of it like so. Awesome. That is a great start. So next up, let's go ahead and go to our layer menu, add a new layer right above this one. Grab our next color in line, second one on the second row. Same monoline brush at 100%, and we're just going to draw another oval on the inside now. So just draw another oval kind of all the way through, hold it down, and then click Edit Ellipse, and again, line it up on that line, the top and bottom lines, and then kind of line up the sides so that our spacing is kind of even all the way around again. Something kind of like this. Okay, so it's kind of falls right in the middle there. That looks good. Okay, now we're going to add some kind of highlights to this upper oval. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer right above this one. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask and click the N and drag the layer style here up to add. Grab our first color on the second row again, and we'll switch to our soft brush under the airbrushing category. We'll have the opacity pretty low, like 50%, and we'll have the size also pretty low at like 3% or 2%, somewhere in there. And we're just going to go through and add kind of some light highlights all the way around this. So I'm pushing pretty light. If you need to lower your brush size any further, go ahead and do so. But we're just kind of adding some random highlights throughout. Nothing too crazy, just to add some different kind of variation there. Okay, and I want some pieces like really, really bright, so I'm just going to kind of go through and just, you know, go over a couple sections again, just to get like a really, really bright section here and there, some really bright highlights, just in a few spots. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing to our previous layer. So on this layer on the bottom now, our bottom oval, add a layer above that one. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the N and set it to add. Same color, same brush and everything. And we'll add just some really brief highlights throughout this one as well. So I might start kind of towards the edge here and just not touching my bezel at all, just kind of right in the middle, either on the inside or the outside. Just right on the very, very edge, just here and there. Just touch it just briefly there. Okay, now we will go back to our layer menu. Let's snap our two layers together like our clipping mask to our main layer. So once that's done, I'll snap this layer to this layer, and then I'll snap the clipping mask to our top layer. On our top layer, we're going to blur the edges now just a little bit to make it look more like a bezel. So and so the edges won't be so stark. So let's be on our top oval layer, click our wand icon, Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag this up just a little tiny bit to like 2 to 3%, something like that. Beautiful. Now we need our inner oval that's like a darker, part of the frame. So on our layer menu, let's snap these two layers together. Slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab the bottom one. Alpha lock should be on already. We are going to grab our two darkest colors here on this row, the 6th and 7th in line. So we'll start with the 6th one. Go to our layer menu, click on this layer and click fill layer. You can't see it because it's under this other layer, but let's grab it with our arrow tool on freeform. We'll downsize it a good bit and then recenter it where we see our two blue lines. Downsize it some more, recenter it. Again, make sure it's kind of like even all the way around in terms of how much is showing, and then recenter it each time. So we just want a little bit sticking through like this. Okay, alpha lock's already turned on. Now we're going to add like a little bit of a shadow to the inner edge. So on our color palette, let's grab our next color, 7th in line, same soft brush. I'll increase the opacity to 100 and then the size to like 3 to 4% still. And I'm just going to go all the way around the edge and just add a shadow right next to my inner edge of my upper oval. Like so. Okay, and so then that is it for the start of our frame. So we're going to do that for each one. Now we got to add like the little detail pieces though, so that's going to be fun. So let's go to our layer menu. Let's center both of these ovals now on our symmetry line. So grab one, slide right on the other, grab it with our arrow tool, and with snapping turned on in the bottom left, we'll snap to our center yellow line. So where we see both yellow lines pop up, that means we're directly in the center, and now we can use symmetry. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer to the top of our layer so far. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist, and let's grab this 4th color on the 2nd row of the color palette. That is what we will use to add our little details. Let's switch back to the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We'll maybe lower our size a bit to like 50% or so, and we'll just go ahead and get started. We're going to layer a bunch of these. So we'll just kind of lay down one layer at a time for both like the top and bottom and the right and left side. So let's start on the right and left side. So I'm just going to start on the right over here. I'm just going to start kind of like right on the symmetry line, and I'm going to go in and make kind of like a little kind of loop-de-loop like this, and then come back and like fill that in. I might make it a little bit shallower, and we'll add shadows and stuff so we'll be able to see this better, and highlights and all that good stuff. So this is just a kind of a starting point. Okay, and then on the same layer, we'll start our top and bottom one as well. So I'll do kind of the same thing at the top here. I'll start kind of right on the symmetry line, and I'll maybe make like a little loopy like this to get that one started. I might go down a little bit further, closer to the bottom of my frame piece there. Maybe like this. Okay, let's go to our layer menu. Let's add a new layer. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist, and we'll do kind of another layer of this. And so for the side ones, we're going to do something real kind of fancy. So I'm going to start right here, and all in one layer, I'm going to go out like this and back. Same layer, I'm just going to go out like a little further, kind of extend it there. And then maybe one more time kind of on the top here. So that's all like one piece. So I'm just kind of trying to extend it down the edge of my picture frame to kind of make it pretty big. Okay, then on our top and bottom one here, we're going to do another pretty big one. Kind of right starting at the top of the frame, I'm going to make a nice big long one that connects to the one that we did previously. So a pretty big one there as well to fill up some good space. Okay, then we'll move on to a new layer again. So layer menu, add a new layer, click on it, turn on Drawing Assist, same thing. On the right and left side now, we'll do some pretty small ones again, just kind of sticking off like the side now. So starting at the middle, another loop-de-loop, like so. Maybe a little flatter. And then same thing at the top here, a little kind of loop-de-loop sticking up. Okay, new layer, click on it, turn on Drawing Assist. And last one, we're going to do really, really small ones, kind of right sticking off the symmetry line pretty small at the top there. So one like that on the sides, a little tiny one at the top and bottom. So that kind of adds the detail to our frame. So now we need to do some more stuff to this. We'll add some shadows, we'll add some highlights, all that good stuff. So on our layer menu, let's first add shadows to our main frame. So on our frame layer here, let's add a new layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click on it again, turn on drawing assist so we only have to do it one time, and then click the N on this layer and set it to multiply. Grab this grayish color, the last one on the second row that we have, 8th in line, and switch back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category, opacity at 100, size pretty low, still at like 3, and I'm just going to add a little shadow underneath each of these. So something just kind of like this. If you need to lower your opacity, go ahead and do so. But yep, we just want a good little shadow under them. Same thing on the top and bottom. Just anywhere that it's like overlapping there. Okay, that helps kind of make them pop a little bit. Now we're going to go through and do some stuff to each of them individually. So on our layer menu, let's find our next layer above this one. Click on it and turn on alpha lock so we're only drawing within this shape. Let's see, this was our base color. Now we're going to use the one next to it, 5th in line on the second row. Same soft brush under the airbrushing category. And we want to create a shadow just kind of right under our next layer. So we're on our bottommost layer here. So that was this one here. So if I go really hard, we can see all that kind of highlight. And so I just kind of want to go right around that like so, just to kind of make our next layer pop out a little bit. Same thing on the top and bottom. We're just going to kind of start drawing wherever till our shadow kind of sticks out. Nothing too crazy, just a light shadow. We're also going to add some highlight to it while we're here. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer, click on it and set it to a clipping mask, click the N and set it to add, but we're not going to turn on drawing assist. We don't want it to be symmetrical, all of our highlights. We just want them to be kind of standalone. So let's use our same base color that we had before, 4th one on the second row. Same soft brush, pretty low. We can lower our opacity again to like 50. Same size, pretty low at like 2 to 3%. And I'm just going to add kind of some highlights around it here and there. Add some kind of bright ones to some pieces. But we'll save our pretty bright ones for like our bigger pieces, bigger than the ones that we have here. But just something like that or some more variation. Okay, now that that's all done, let's go ahead and just snap those two together. So our add layer to our base layer. We can also go ahead and snap this shadow to our oval layer like so. Okay, let's move on to our next layer. So that is our second like design layer. Click on it and turn on alpha lock. Grab our shadow color again, 5th one on the second row. Opacity back up to 100, but otherwise everything's the same. And we're going to create a shadow now right underneath our next layer. So just kind of where we can start drawing and see a shadow there. That's where we want our shadow. Same thing on the top and bottom, right in there. Okay, on our right and left side, this one's a little bit more special too. I'm going to make my brush really, really low to like 1 to 2%. And we're just going to add like the teeniest little shadow in between these, like where these pieces come together. So right in there and then right in there. Just a little bit of a shadow as well. Awesome. Okay, on our layer menu, add a new layer above this layer, click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the N and set it to add, no drawing assist. Back to our base color, 4th one on the second row. Opacity back to like 50. And we're gonna add some highlights now. Size back up to like 2 to 3. And yeah, we'll just add some highlights. And this is kind of where we can make some like kind of brighter ones in some areas, since this is kind of like our biggest piece for most of them. But we're also just trying to add some variation. So something kind of like that. Okay, let's snap that layer to the layer when we're done. Click on the next one, turn on Alpha Lock. Grab our shadow color, 5th on the 2nd row, opacity back up to 100. And we'll add this one last shadow just right underneath our next layer. So right there on the sides, right there on the top. Awesome. That's all we need to do there except for our slight highlights now. So add a new layer above it. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the end, set it to add. Back to our 4th color on the 2nd row. Same soft brush, lower the opacity a little if you would like. And we'll add some good highlights on these as well. Okay, and that's it for this one. Go back to our layer menu, snap those together. Next layer, we don't need to add a shadow, so we're just going to do a layer above. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the end, set it to add, and do our highlights. So same color, same brush. Little highlights to our top pieces on each side, like so. Okay, and then that is pretty much it for our fancy frame. We're going to do one tiny last detail, but let's go ahead and start snapping some stuff together so I can snap this layer now to the one we just did once we're done with it, and then I can snap all of my design layers together maybe. Let's do that. Okay, and then once that's done, you like the way everything looks, let's just go ahead and snap all these layers together. Add a layer above it, click on it and set it to a clipping mask, and click the N and set it to add, and we'll do one last highlight layer. So this is going to be with the last color on the top row of the color palette, really bright. Same soft brush at like 50% opacity, really small size, 2 to 3%, and we're just going to brighten up some of our highlights even more just in a few spots. So just kind of wherever we have some really bright highlights already, I might just go in and very lightly, just really bring some shine to it. So on our main piece, or like our main detail pieces, but then also on like the frame as well, we can add some just really small, really bright highlights. So something kind of like that. And then that is it for our first frame. And we're just going to do that the same pretty much for each one. They're all going to be a little bit different. I feel like they'll be a little more simple. But that's the main part of our drawing today. So then once that's done, I'll go to my layer menu and I'll snap those together, grab this one with my arrow tool, and drag it up over to where we want it. You can resize it now if you'd like to, or you can just kind of leave it as is. But, you know, whatever you want to do, preferably on uniform. Then we're going to go ahead and make our next frame. So I'm going to turn this frame off on our layer menu. So turn this layer off. Add a new layer, and we'll start all over and we'll do our next one. So this one time we're going to turn Drawing Assist on to start to make our shape. So Drawing Assist turned on, let's grab our first color on the 2nd row of our color palette again, back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab at 50%. And this one's kind of like a good rectangle size, so I'm going to, or just a good kind of vertical rectangle, this one here. So I'm just going to start like a little higher up on my vertical line, a little over on my horizontal line. I'm going to start there. I'm just going to go straight across to the middle, hold it down until it turns perfectly straight, touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. Then you can click this line button if you want to adjust it. You know, if you need to like bring it together or further apart or anything, we can still resize it here in a moment. But if you just want to get kind of a better size now, go ahead and do so. Then we'll grab our pen again and we will connect these vertically. So starting right on the corner, I'll just draw to the middle again, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical. Click your line button if you need to adjust it, mainly just to make sure this corner meets up nicely in the top and bottom, like so. I'm going to grab it with my arrow tool. I'm just going to kind of move it on over here. And then on freeform or uniform, you can downsize it a little bit to kind of fit your sketch a little bit better. Before we move it on back, recenter it on both of our yellow lines. Right there. Okay. Now we'll kind of do exactly what we did before. We'll make a duplicate to fill in. So slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab it with your arrow tool on freeform. Downsize it all the way around. Recenter it till we get a nice space to fill in. We'll make this one pretty thick, so keep on downsizing, recentering it as you go. Maybe about like this to start looks good. Let's go to our layer menu, snap these two layers together so we can fill in the middle of them. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did before where we make the kind of bezel inside. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above this one, click on it and turn on Drawing Assist, and grab our lighter color, second one on the second row. Same monoline brush, we'll set our size to 100%. And I'm just going to start right in the corner here, right in the middle of everything, and draw towards the center, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal, click the line button to move it around if you need to, but just kind of centered from top to bottom with a little gap on the right side. Then I'll grab my pen and I'll connect it vertically now through the middle of everything, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. You should have a little gap all the way around. If you don't, you can just lower your brush size to make a gap. And then I'll click my line button again and edit it if I need to. Okay, that looks great. You should have space all the way around. So now we'll do what we did before. We'll add some brief highlights to it, and then we'll kind of blend it together. We'll make the inner piece, and then we'll add the details and the highlights again. So on our layer menu, let's first add a layer above this one. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Click the N and set it to add. And no drawing assist turned on. Let's grab our base color, first one on the second row, and switch back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category. Opacity at about 50, size at like 2 to 3. And I'm just going to go through and add some good highlights all over this main middle piece, just to add some good variation. So through the middle, on the edges, whatever works. Okay, get some good variety going, and then I want some really, really bright sections as well. So I'm going to go through and just really kind of push and brighten some of these up if they're not pretty bright already. Something kind of like that. Okay, we'll go back to our first rectangle layer, add a layer above that. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the end, set it to add, same color, same brush, and we're just going to again go through the very, very edges and add some of this there as well. Just for some more variation. Okay, once that's done, we're going to go back to our layer menu and we're going to snap these together. So snap our add layer to our big rectangle, snap our add layer to our little rectangle. On our top layer, we're going to blur this now. So wand icon, Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag this out just a little tiny bit to like 2 to 3%. So it kind of gilds itself with our other piece of our frame. So then on our layer menu, let's snap those two frame layers together. Let's slide to the left and click duplicate. Grab our bottom one, click on it and turn on alpha lock. Grab our darker color now, sixth one on the second row, and back to our layer menu, click on this layer and click fill layer. Let's grab it with our arrow tool on freeform and we'll downsize it all the way around till we can see it inside, recentering it each time on our yellow or blue lines, whatever it gives us. Till we see a good little bit inside, maybe a little bit more I'll do. Make sure it's kind of even all the way around. Something like that looks good. Then on our layer menu, with alpha lock already turned on, we're going to grab our darker color now, seventh one on the second row. Same soft brush, pretty low size. We'll turn our opacity to 100. And I'll just go all the way around and add a good little shadow inside. Drawing assist is turned on, so I only have to do it the one time. Now we can go ahead and start adding our details. So on our layer menu, let's go ahead and just add a layer above all of this so far. Leave those two layers separate. Click on this layer, turn on Drawing Assist. grab our first detail color, fourth one on the second row, switch to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, and we're just going to do kind of a similar thing. I think for this one we'll just do the corners, so the top, the top right corners. We won't do anything on the side here. I'm going to lower my brush to 50%, and we're just going to kind of start right on this corner for like an anchor point, this middle corner piece. And we're just going to draw kind of like a teardrop shape to start. Something like that. Okay, layer menu, new layer. Click on it, turn on drawing assist. And now we're going to do kind of off to the side on each one. So same anchor point. We're going to go pretty far down the side in like a really long teardrop shape. Down both sides, back to that same kind of anchor point. Something like that. Layer menu, new layer. Click on it, turn on drawing assist. Okay, now from here, same kind of anchor point. We're going to go up this way on both sides, like so. And layer menu, new layer, click on it, turn on drawing assist. Same thing, two little ones on the top, like so. So that's our fancy corner for this one. So now we're going to go back through and do the same things that we did before. So let's first go back to our main frame layer, add a layer right above it, click on it, turn on drawing assist, click on it, turn it to a clipping mask, and click on the N and set it to multiply. For our color, let's grab our last one on the second row, 8th in line, back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category, opacity at 100, size at like 2 to 3, and we'll just go through and kind of create a little shadow underneath everything that we can see here to kind of make those pop like so. Okay, now we'll do the same thing for each of our design pieces. So on our layer menu, let's first snap this shadow layer to our frame layer. When we're done with that, go to our next layer. Click on it and turn on alpha lock. Grab our darker color than our base color, 5th one on the second row. Opacity at 100, size still at like 2 to 3, and we'll just again kind of wherever we can see our shadow here, kind of go through and add that. If you need to like adjust your next layer to be a little cleaner, you can always go in and do that as well. Back to our monoline brush. Something like that. So mine was kind of messy there, so okay. But the shadow on my other layer is done. Let's add a layer above that one. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Click the N and set it to add. Go back to our base color, 4th one on the second row. On our soft brush still, opacity at 50, size at 2 to 3. And we'll add some highlights to it, just a teeny bit for each one, this little tiny kind of spherical shape there. Nothing too crazy. Okay, very simple for that one. Let's go to our next one so we can snap these together on our layer menu. Next layer up, click on it, turn on alpha lock, grab our darker color again, 5th one on the second row, and again, opacity at 100, size pretty low. Let's go ahead and just add a little shadow underneath that next piece there. Awesome. Now we need our add layer, so add a new layer above it. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N, set it to add. Back to our 4th color in the second row, opacity down a little bit, and we'll add some little highlights to these. These are kind of some of our bigger pieces, so good highlights throughout. Like so. Okay, that's it for that layer. Let's go ahead and snap that clipping mask to it. Grab our next color up, click on it and turn on alpha lock. Grab our shadow color, 5th one on the second row, opacity at 100, and we'll add just a little bit of a shadow underneath that next layer. It's kind of like a heart shape on top. Back to our layer menu, add a layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N, set it to add. 4th color in the second row again. Lower your opacity of your brush, and then go ahead and a little more highlight here. Okay, layer menu, snap those together. Next layer, no need to turn on alpha lock and do the shadow. We'll just add a layer above it. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the end, set it to add. Same color, same brush, and we'll just add some little highlights to each of these top pieces. Like so. Nothing too crazy. Okay, and then that is it for our fancy corners. So now we can go ahead and snap everything together for our next frame. So all these layers can be one. Add a layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the end and set it to add, and now we'll add our really bright highlight. So that's with this last color on the top row of the color palette. Same brush, I'll keep my size pretty low, or I'll keep my opacity pretty low at like 50, size at like 2 to 3, and we'll go through and just add some really, really bright highlights in certain spots just to kind of make it glow a little bit. Mainly again, like where we already have some good highlight already going. Kind of like that. Once that's done, let's snap that layer to our frame layer. And again, we can grab the whole thing with our arrow tool now and we can kind of move it up to our sketches. You can resize it right now if you'd like to on uniform, or you can just kind of leave it be and we'll replace it later. But now we can move on to our very last frame where we'll do all the same stuff and then we will be done. And then we can make our pictures inside and our background, which will be more simple. So this is kind of the main event. So on our layer menu, let's turn this layer off, add a new layer for our final frame. Click on it and turn on drawing assist so that we can use our symmetry again. And we'll start again with our first color on the second row. Back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab at 100%. And this is going to be a nice long frame. So for our sketch, I have the whole thing kind of to the left a little bit. So I might start like a little further in than like this, or a little further out than this, because then we'll move it down there. So maybe right about here is good. I'll start right there, go to the middle, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen. Click the line button if you need to move it around. So I'm going to move it a little closer together so it's a little skinnier. Maybe about like this is a good starting point. Grab up my pen tool again and we'll connect it on the side with a vertical line. So hold that down, touch your finger to the screen, click the line button to move it just to make that corner better. Okay, now you can grab it with your arrow tool if you want and move it down here to our sketch and just kind of see how it looks. That looks great. We'll resize it if you need to on either uniform or freeform, and then recenter it here where our center yellow lines are. Okay, then on our layer menu, let's make a duplicate of this layer. So slide to the left and hit duplicate, grab it with our arrow tool on freeform, and we'll again make our little inner piece so that we can make a section to fill in for our frame. We'll do a pretty skinny one this time. Maybe about like this, just recenter it, make sure it looks pretty even all the way around. And then once that looks good, go back to our layer menu, snap these two layers together, and fill in between them. And that is the start of our frame. Now we need our lighter color in the middle. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Click on it, turn on drawing assist, grab our second color on the second row. Same brush at 100%. And again, if you need to lower yours from 100, that's fine. We want like a good line in the middle with like some space on the top and bottom. So 100 looks good for me. I'm going to start on the corner, go straight to the middle, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen, click the line button to move it around. We want it just right in the middle of this corner here, and then kind of centered from top to bottom where we have about even space on both sides. Then we'll grab our pen and connect down the side. Same thing, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen, click the line button to adjust it if you need to. Okay, looking good. Let's go ahead and do our add layers now. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer above this one. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the end, set it to add. Back to our first color in the second row. And switch back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category. Opacity at 50, size at like 2 to 3. And we'll go through and add all of our variation here, some nice highlights to our little middle rectangle here. kind of throughout. And then we'll go back through and really brighten some of them up in certain areas. Like so. Okay, back to our layer menu. Let's add a layer above our other rectangle, our bottom one. Add a layer right above it. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Click the end, set it to add. And again, just right around the very, very edges, we'll add some of this in certain areas. Okay, once that's done, we will go back and snap these layers now together. So our clipping mask to our one rectangle, our clipping mask to the other rectangle. Our top skinny rectangle will blur it. So get on that layer, wand icon, Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag this up just a little bit to like 2 to 3%. Okay, now on our layer menu, we can snap these two layers together, make a duplicate of them. Bottom layer, click on it, turn on alpha lock, grab our dark color now to get our inner rectangle, so the 6th color on the second row. Back to our layer menu, click on this one and click fill layer. Arrow tool, we'll drag it in all the way around. Recenter it, make sure it's nice and even all the way around, and we have just a little lip on the inside is good, like so. Make sure it's nice and centered. Then on our layer menu, alpha lock's already turned on. We just need our darker color. So 7th one on the second row. Same soft brush. We'll increase the opacity to 100. Same pretty low size though. And we'll just go right on the inside of our other rectangle to create a shadow there. And we only have to do it on like one corner because symmetry is turned on still. So just do one corner and then it should be reflected all the way around. Beautiful. Now we're ready to go into our details. So let's add a layer to the very top. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist. Go back to our 4th color on the second row now. Monoline brush in the calligraphy tab at 50%. And we are going to only do 3 layers this time. So we're going to do the corners, the top sides, and the middle sides. So, and we'll just do 3 total layers. So I think before we had done 4 on each one. So we'll just do 3. So for our first layer, we're only going to do the sides, not the corners. The corner is just going to have 2 layers. Let's do our right side here. So again, we'll kind of start and like anchor ourselves right on our symmetry line, right in kind of in the middle of this section. And I'm just going to do my first one, just to kind of loop-de-loop this way, fill that in. Boom, that should be reflected on the left side. Then on the top middle, we'll do essentially the same thing. So I'm going to start right on the symmetry line, right kind of in the middle from top to bottom. And again, I'm going to make like a pretty long teardrop kind of shape. Fill that in. Okay, so that's our start. Layer menu, new layer, click on it, turn on Drawing Assist. Okay, this is our second layer. We're going to start on the right side again. Do essentially just the same thing, same anchor point. I'm just going to go a little higher up and maybe a little shorter. Kind of like that. Same thing on the center, top and bottom. We're going to do same anchor point, a little shorter. Okay, and then we'll start the corners now as well. So on the corner here, I am just going to start on that same anchor point in the middle of the corner, and we're going to go kind of up this way on both sides. So kind of make a little loop on both sides like this. Okay, one more layer. So on our layer menu, add a new layer. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist. And let's start on our right side again. So now we're going to kind of start at the same anchor point and go up now, pretty small, just a little tiny piece to cap it off on the top. Same thing for our middle, top and bottom. We're going to start on that anchor point and go up this way, make a small one, maybe not quite that high, maybe a little more shallow, something more like that. And then for our corners, we're just going to start on the middle and make one good loop and fill that in. So that is what our corners should look like. Okay, so that's all of our pieces. Let's go to our layer menu and add our shadow to our main frame. Select our main frame layer, add a layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click on it again, turn on drawing assist, and click the N and set it to multiply. Grab our grayish color, the last one on the second row, soft brush under the airbrushing category at 100% for opacity, 2 to 3% for size, and we'll go around and we'll just add a shadow under everything to make it pop. So you should just have to do it the one time, and then it's mirrored everywhere. Okay, and now we can do everything else. So on our layer menu, let's snap those two layers together, and then go up to our next layer. This is our first one. It just has the top, bottom, right, and left, not the corners. So click on it and turn on Alpha Lock, leave Drawing Assist turned on, and grab our darker color now, the fifth one on the second row. Same soft brush at 100% for opacity. And on the right side here, I'll zoom in and we'll just do a shadow under this next layer, just right on the right edge there. Same for the middle, top, and bottom. We'll just do a shadow right where we can start seeing it there. Okay, then we'll add our highlight to it. So on our layer menu, add a new layer above it, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N, set it to add, back one color to the fourth one on the second row. Same soft brush, we'll lower our opacity a little to like 50, and we'll add just a few little highlights here and there to these bottom pieces on the middle, right, and left side. Okay, layer menu, let's snap those two together and move on to our next layer. Click on it and turn on Alpha Lock so we can do our shadows. Grab our darker color, fifth one on the second row, same soft brush, opacity at 100. And for our right and left side, we just need to like outline this top piece. For our middle and bottom, same thing. And then for our corners, we also need to go around this like middle piece, wherever we can see it there, to add a shadow there. Okay, layer menu, add a layer above this one, click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N, set it to add, switch back to our fourth color in the second row, opacity at 50. We'll add some little highlights to these pieces. And then back to our layer menu, snap those together, do our final one. This top one, we don't need to do the shadow, so we'll just add a layer above it. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N, set it to add. Same color, same brush, same everything. And we'll add some good highlights to our main top little pieces. All the way around. Okay, then on our layer menu, let's snap those together. And we can actually snap all of our frame layers together now for this next frame. Boom. Add a layer above it for our final highlight. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask, click the N, set it to add, and grab our last color in the top row of the color palette. Same brush, same opacity and everything. And let's just go through and add some really bright highlights to some certain sections to really make them pop. Okay, then once that is done, let's go to our layer menu, snap that to our rectangle layer. And then that's it. We can grab it with our arrow tool and we can move it down here to where it belongs. And then we can go ahead and turn on our other frames and kind of see how they look. Move them, resize them, move them around if you need to. I make my oval a little bit bigger on uniform. Okay, might make my other rectangle a little bit bigger as well. Okay, and your sketch was just a sketch. It doesn't have to be perfect, but essentially I just want some spacing around them and just have them kind of be like scattered about, nothing too perfect. But I think this looks pretty good. Then on our layer menu, let's go ahead and just delete our sketch layer. So that was our bottom layer. Boom. Now we can go ahead and draw all of our pieces inside. So let's just go ahead and do that one by one. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Let's drag it below our oval layer at the very bottom here. So this will be for our oval frame. So we're just going to make a shape behind this in white and then make clipping masks to it for our painted picture. So I did not add white to the color palette, so let's just grab white from our background. So hold down on our background here, grab our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, and I'm just going to make a shape roughly behind this, connect it, and fill it in. You won't see anything on your canvas, but if you go to your layer menu, you should see a filled in shape here. Okay, and then we'll just add a layer above it, click on it and set it to a clipping mask, and here's where we'll draw. So let's grab our pink color, our peachy color, the first one on the last row of the color palette. The brush that we're going to use for all of this is going to be the Salamanca brush under the painting category. For this background, let's go ahead and just set it to like 50%. And I'm just going to go kind of back and forth horizontally to just kind of lay down this background color. And this just gives us kind of a nice canvasy look. I'll pick up my brush a couple times and just go over it again to kind of darken it up, but we still get that good texture to get us started. Then on our layer menu, let's add a layer above that, click on it and set it to a clipping mask. We're still clipped to this base shape that we laid down. And now here we'll draw our flowers. So let's grab our next color line, second one on the bottom row, and we're going to use the same brush. We're just going to lower our size a bit to maybe 20%. And I'm just going to start some flowers. So I am going to do one in the middle on the top here. So I'm going to start there. I'm just going to kind of create some little kind of petally, like a little first kind of petal like this. So I have like an anchor point at the bottom and then I kind of petaled out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to make another layer of that. So I'm going to go down a little bit and kind of do the same thing here, kind of in the front, like so. So we get some overlap going. Okay, I'm going to go down into the right. I'm going to do kind of a similar thing. Can kind of go off the edge, but there's like the start of it. I'll go down and do the second layer like this. Okay, same thing on the left side here. Maybe I'll do kind of a little in between that. So like just not as low as the other one. Maybe it's about as low. That's fine too. But again, my second layer now. Boom, that's the start of my flowers. Okay. Same layer, I'm going to make some little kind of dots inside to represent like little, stems or not stems, like pollen stems inside. So the next color on the bottom row, third in line, same brush. We're just going to lower our size really low to like 5%. And I'm just going to go in the middle of each one and make a few of these little kind of dots. I pick my brush up like once or twice to make a few of those. We can go kind of lower too. And then, yeah, we'll do the same thing here. But yeah, we kind of want to be like where these petals like come together, but like one or two can be like under them, if that makes sense, so that they're just kind of like clumped up at the top there. Okay, layer menu. Let's add a new layer below our flowers now, above our pink peachy background. So right in there, it should automatically set itself to a clipping mask. Grab our green color, fourth one on the bottom row. Same brush. Let's keep our size pretty low here at like 5%. And I'm just going to start at the bottom of each one and make a good stem. I'm going to push pretty hard, make it nice and thick. I'm going to kind of make it wider at the top, kind of go over it a few times to make some nice thick color. Okay, I'll do the same thing for the other ones. And I'm also going to make them like almost vertical, kind of like this. Awesome. And then we'll do some leaves on them as well. So same brush, same color, same size. I'm just going to kind of go off each one Make a few leaves, like so. Nothing crazy. Go over them each a few times to kind of thicken them up, but we should have some good like paint texture going on. Like so. Okay, so that's our first like painting all done. So now let's go to our next painting. So that is going to be this one on the right side here. We're going to do a sunset scene. So we'll go ahead and add a layer above our oval frame underneath our right rectangle frame. Again, let's grab our white color. So I'm just going to hold down on my background color. This time I'm just going to grab my selection tool, set to rectangle, and turn on color fill. And I'm just going to start anywhere in the frame and kind of draw till I go like somewhere else in the frame on the other side, kind of covering that whole middle area. Let it go to fill it in. You won't see it fill in because it's white, but on your layer menu, you should see a good rectangle there to go off of. So let's add a layer above that. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask, and this is where we'll start our sunset. So let's go ahead and start with the sky. So it's going to be all these colors on the top row after our like maroon colors. So let's start with our fifth one on the top row, the nice orange. Same Salamanca brush, let's set our size to like 30%. And I'm going to start at the very, very top here, and I'm just going to work horizontally, and I'm going to pick my brush up a few good times to get this orange going, leaving some good kind of texture showing, but maybe go down like a third of the way with that. Grab my next color in line, the kind of orangey yellow, the sixth one on the top row. So I'll kind of start right there, blend it through, blend down. Keep picking my brush up to get some thick color. Then I'll grab my next color, the brighter yellow, seventh one on this top row, and start there, work my way down a little further. So now we should have like a fourth or so showing at the bottom. Okay, I'm just kind of blending these through. Feel free to go back in with either of your other two colors to blend further, so blend those together. Go back to our darkest orange at the top if you need more up there, anything like that. Get them nice and blendy looking, nice and fun, still have some good texture showing. Okay, then we can add our water. Let's add that on a new layer right above this one. Click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Grab our first watercolor, the eighth one on the top row, and we'll just kind of fill in this open space, so about a quarter of the way at the bottom. Push on it pretty hard to get a good, base going there. Okay, getting a good line across the top, so I'm going to push pretty hard there, all the way across the top. Grab with your arrow tool if you need to on freeform, and you can like move it up or down. With your sky, if you need to move your sky down, you can extend it down with freeform as well. But yeah, we want our water to maybe take up like the bottom fourth or so. Okay, then for our sun, we're going to add that above our water layer as well. So add a new layer, click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Grab our last color on the top row of the color palette, our kind of whitish color. Same Salamanca brush, we're just going to lower our size a little bit to like 10%. And we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to work horizontally across the top of the water here. Get a good horizontal line going, nice and thick, go over it a few times. Then we're going to start like our half moon shape for our sun. So just kind of somewhere in the middle, I'm just going to start drawing like a half moon shape. Fill it in really nice and thick, go over it a few times, make it nice and thick. The shape doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to blur it here in a second. So just get a good shape going, nice and filled in. Now we'll do our blur. So wand icon, Gaussian Blur. We'll drag this up just a little bit to like 7 to 10%, somewhere in there. Okay, then we want just like a little bit more of a glow around it. So on our layer menu, we're just going to stay on the same layer, same color. We're just going to switch our brush to the soft brush again under the airbrushing category with our opacity at like 50, our size up to maybe 10. And I'm just going to kind of go around the sun here just a little bit, very, very lightly, just adding a little bit more of a glow to the sky. You can even do a little bit down the water here right next to our sun. Something like that. And then that completes our sunset drawing, or our sunset painting in that frame. Okay, then we have our last frame. We're going to draw a just very basic mountain scene with a few trees on it. So on our layer menu, same thing. We'll add a layer above our next frame, so we're underneath our bottom frame. Let's make our base shape first. So grab our white color again, selection tool with rectangle and color fill turned on. I'm going to start just anywhere in the frame here, drag across so we can fill the whole thing in, let it go. you'll see on your layer menu you have a white rectangle now. Let's add a layer above it, click on it and set it to a clipping mask. And our mountain is going to be like all these last colors on the last row, starting with the 5th in line. So let's start with that one. Grab our Salamanca brush again under the painting category. Let's see our size. Let's go back up to like 30 again. So we're going to do our background first. So this is for our sky. Let's just go ahead and start working horizontally, covering the whole canvas that we have. Pick it up a few times so we get a nice filled in base. Then we have a few variations. So we have a slightly darker color, this next one in line, 6th one on the bottom row. So let's grab that and do like 15% and just kind of go through and like just add a few like streaks of this, nothing too crazy, just a few little quick sections. Okay, now we'll draw our mountains and then we'll add this next color, which is like kind of a cloudy color. So we'll do our mountains first. So let's add a new layer on our layer menu, click on it, set it to a clipping mask. Grab our first mountain color, this first green, 8th one on the last row. Same brush at like 15%, and we'll just sketch out some mountains. So very, very basic. I'm just going to go like, they're not even really mountains, they're more like hills. So I'm just going to go from the edge, go up a little bit, go down. So maybe here. Then I'm going to go kind of down a little further. We'll go and make like maybe a smaller one going off the other edge. They look more twin-like, so I'm going to just kind of make this one like a little closer to the symmetry line, and then maybe we'll go like something like this. So just kind of a general hilly shape, pretty messy. And then I'm going to fill all this in with this green color, picking my brush up several times to get a nice, good filled in area, but we can have some texture still showing, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But we want it pretty dark. Okay, but nice and kind of painty looking, so something like that. Okay, then we're going to just add some variation to our mountain, so some darker and some lighter. So for our darker color, we're actually going to switch back to this 4th color on the bottom row that we used for our stems for our flowers. Same brush, size at about 10%. And I'm just going to add some of this darker color in here, kind of like in the valleys and the lower areas of the mountains, and just, you know, some good variation otherwise. Okay. Then we'll add some lighter color in as well, the 9th one on the 2nd row, same layer, same size, same everything. And again, we'll just kind of add some sections of this like through some of the higher points. And just kind of anywhere for some more variation. Okay, once that's done, we're going to add our trees. We're going to add them on the same layer. So we're just going to switch our color to the 10th one on the last row, last in line. And same brush at 5% now. So we'll lower down to 5. And we're just going to draw our trees. They're just going to be little vertical lines, basically. So I'm just going to start somewhere, make a good vertical line, kind of widen it at the base a little bit, and then pick it up a couple times to make it nice and dark. We'll do a few of those of varying sizes. Maybe a few there. Maybe we'll do like one kind of by itself. A couple on the top of this guy. Over here some more. Again, always picking up to make them nice and thick. So something kind of like that, just a good variety throughout. Then we just need to finish the sky. So on our layer menu, we'll add a new layer above our blue layer behind our mountains. This will be where we draw our clouds. So now we can go and do the 7th color on the last row. Same brush. Let's increase our size back up to 10. And then we'll just kind of work horizontally through the sky with this lighter color, making sure to pick up a good amount so that we get some really bright sections. And no real rhyme or reason to it. We're just working horizontally in little sections. We're not really making any shapes or anything. Just kind of some random pieces of clouds. Okay, so maybe something kind of like this. Again, going back over a few good times, really brightening up the centers of them. Okay. Then very lastly, we just want like a little bit of sun coming from behind our mountain. So on our layer menu, let's again go to the layer below this one and add a new layer above it. So we're right above our background behind our clouds and mountains. We're going to grab our 10th color on the top row of the color palette again, switch back to our soft brush under the airbrushing category, opacity at 50, size at like 7 to 10. And we're just going to go right where our mountains kind of have like that valley and just poke this up just a little bit through there, very lightly horizontally across there. And then that completes our mountain picture. So that's all 3 of our paintings done and ready to go. So now the last thing that we need to do is just create our background and our shadows for our frames. So that'll really make this all come together. So to do that, let's go to our layer menu. If we need to save some layers, now is a good time to do so. We can, once you're done with all your paintings, we can snap all those layers together with each other. So just our painting layers and like our rectangle, so all 5 of these layers, not our frame, but everything below our frame that goes together. Boom. So now we have our 3 paintings, our 3 frames, very simple. Let's click on our background color layer to open that up and set it to the first color in the first row of the color palette. Go back to our layer menu, add a new layer just anywhere, and drag it to the bottom of our layer menu. Well, now we have a few variations for color here for this background to add some just variation in texture. So let's grab our second one on the top row. And for our brush, we're going to use the Nickel Roll brush under the painting category. Let's set our opacity at like 70, our size at like 50. And I am just going to kind of go down the wall, kind of working in vertical patches to add some variation of these different colors and add some good kind of wall texture. Okay, so I did a few patches of this lighter color. Now we'll do the darker one, third one on the top row. Same thing, we'll add in some patches of that. You can overlap with the other one or go around it, just kind of adding in some more variation there. And then lastly, we have this fourth color on the top row. We'll do that again, just adding in some really kind of bright patches throughout. Again, I'm working pretty lightly though, so nothing too crazy. Okay, now we need our shadows. So we need shadows for each frame. So on our layer menu, let's just grab our first frame, make a duplicate of it. So slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab the bottom one, click the N on the layer first, drag this up to multiply. Grab our gray color, last one on the second row, 8th in line, and go back to our layer menu, click on this layer, click fill layer. Click on it again, turn off alpha lock so that we can blur it. Grab it with our arrow tool and move it down and to the right a little bit, like so. So we'll see it on our frame, like on our picture and outside of our frame. So this is just assuming the light is coming from like the top left side of the room. Okay, now to blur it, we'll go to our wand icon, Gaussian Blur, and we'll blur it just a little bit to maybe like 5% or so. Okay, next frame, do the same thing. Slide to left and hit duplicate, grab the bottom one, but let's click the N, drag it up to multiply. We should already have the right color, so click on it and click fill layer. Click on it again, turn off alpha lock, arrow tool, move it down and to the right. Wand icon, Gaussian Blur, 5%. Maybe move it down and to the right just a little bit more. Okay, very last frame, slide to left and hit duplicate bottom one, click the N, set it to multiply, click on it and click fill layer, click on it again, turn off alpha lock, arrow tool, down and to the right a little bit, wand icon, Gaussian Blur, 5%. Okay, and with all of our shadows added, that completes our drawing today. So I hope that you had fun. I hope that you liked the way that yours turned out. I hope that you maybe learned something new. I think these frames are so fun to create. You can add whatever pictures you want inside of them too. If you want to mess around and mix it up, I would just suggest using that same Salamanca brush to get some good like canvas kind of painting texture to it. But otherwise, that is it. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. Again, check out my Patreon if you want extra exclusive tutorials that I have over there. It's linked in the description below. And if you'd like to share your drawing on Instagram, go ahead and post it there and then tag me so that I can check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.